Thank you.
Right.
Okay. Let me apologize for the lateness of the meeting. At least I had a pressing issue that I needed some directions on, and the administration was kind enough to meet with me at the last minute. And I think with the wise and expert work of Mayor, your team, I think we came up with a resolution.
Wonderful.
So thank you, and thank you for your patience.
What we do. Resolve issues. We try to.
All right, Madam Clerk, you may call the roll.
Mr. Bradford?
Present.
Mr. Everson?
Present.
Mr. Jenkins?
Present.
Mr. Corbin?
Present.
Ms. Lynch? Mr. Hogan?
Here, present.
Okay, thank you, council members. Okay, as we move, we'll be tomorrow entertaining a motion to adopt the previous minutes of the previous meetings. So at this point, we're here from any council members who have any communications, whether it be recognition of guests or any other communications. Council members.
I just want to say if I was slow getting back to anybody or if anyone's waiting on a response, I was out of town last week and my first time gone in a while. So I've tried to stay on top of it, but if I haven't gotten back to you yet, I will soon.
Okay, well, great, good to have you back. Madam Mayor, you have any communications, awards, or recognitions you want to
Not today. Thank you.
feel good? I think we're going to be
I'm doing
out
great.
here a little bit. We have reports. Anyone have any questions or any comments regarding our proper standards? If not, Mr. Green, thank you. We'll look forward to hear from you later.
Okay.
And Mr. Sweeney is here. You'll be prepared tomorrow to give us a report? Okay, thank you, sir. No public hearings to my knowledge today, Mr. Clerk.
We do have a public hearing.
We do have a public hearing, Mr. Chairman, on ordinance number 46 of 2016. This is annexation, tag number 16-01. This is an ordinance to enlarge the city limits and boundaries of the city of Shreveport for the extension of the lakeside on Long Lake development in section 22, P16 North and R13 West, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Okay, thank you. I saw that and then I overlooked it. Any questions regarding the public hearing on tomorrow?
I have one,
Okay.
and I believe it is for the city attorney, but it may also be for Robert. Is this adjacent to where they had all those flooding problems?
I can speak to that.
Okay,
There was a homeowner in the current subdivision that was having and experiencing some problems with the new development's runoff because it was all just dirt. And essentially, since that time, they've mitigated that challenge to the satisfaction of the city, at least, that they've done everything that they can to make those challenges go away. And so we feel comfortable annexating that into the city, and I think Councilman Corbin does as well as his district.
okay. I mean, has anybody spoken to Mr. Payne?
I have not had contact with Mr.
We have not, haven't heard anything additionally from him or from his firm as well.
Okay, yeah, I mean, whether, and not that this is, but is there litigation involved in that?
Not to
Right?
my knowledge, not involved.
Never
in the city.
filed it formally?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
My understanding is that the developer and Mr. Payne have had continuing conversations.
If they reached amicable resolution, is
Well, I think more importantly than that, Councilman, is that we've had our city engineer go out there, and he's made a determination based on his subject matter expertise that they have met their requirements to provide proper drainage for that new annexed section.
So tell me the concern. Are we concerned that we may annex a problem? Is that what the concern is?
well, and I mean, I'm not, I mean, that is a little bit of a concern. I don't know if it's better to have annexed the problem. Part of the problem was when the problem was occurring, they were in the parish, and the other property owners were in the city, and there was some confusion about who had jurisdiction or even a requirement
I remember.
to step in, and then, and then whose standards are we using, and what was the appropriate mitigation required, and who was the authority that they give. So I guess more than anything, I would like that issue to be resolved once. I do not want to put the homeowners that are currently there in more jeopardy or problems than they've already had.
Absolutely not.
And,
So are you,
but I'm not necessarily advocating for or against this annexation. I'm just trying to get updated for more.
I can find out. I know the city has not been served with any litigation regarding this matter. I can attempt to locate and find out whether or not any form of litigation was ever filed on this.
And Robert can come up here and address any specifics. From what I understand, what the developer is actually putting in place will actually cause less runoff than was there before the even land clearing, as far as, the footage of water that was incurred on his property. The property owner was having problems even before the clearing of the land, from what I understand. This new development and the ways that they're actually doing the drainage there will force a lot of that water that was going onto his property before it's developed back into the street area, where it will flow to the bottom of the street and go to a drainage. Robert?
The original development, the top of the hill was up here, and of course the property owner that had the complaint was down here. When they're building the new annexation, the new subdivision, they're building this road through here, and that new road will intercept approximately 1/3 of that drainage basin that used to go down to the bottom of the hill where Mr. Payne is. So now that water's being diverted down to a different path.
Gotcha. But are there adequate measures of mitigation to, if we have another major rainfall, that in this interim prevents another flash flood into this guy's?
He should not exhibit any more problems based on the last rainfalls that we have. Those problems should not reoccur. Of course, there's always the chance you would have a major storm where we have a lot of flooding everywhere.
Sure.
I can't predict those.
No, I recognize that. Okay, good answer.
And I do think that, based, as we got more information and we've met on this a number of times, it was a bit of a perfect storm. Construction had started, the developer had started some work, which displaced the natural flow of water, and then we had, the 100-year rains, and again, and again, and it was just a number of things happened that shouldn't have. But based on what Robert and administration have been able to share, I think that the situation out there is going to be much better with the work that's being done as part of this annexation.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or concerns regarding this ordinance that we will be hearing tomorrow? Okay, thank you. Adding legislation, Mr. Crawford, do we have any?
None from the administration.
Mr. Chairman, there are a couple, Resolution 148 and 149. They are Chapter 10 and Chapter 106 resolutions. One or more of these may not be necessary, but we're checking with the city attorney's office now, and tomorrow, if one or more is not necessary, we'll pull it off.
What's the nature of the other?
This is allowing alcohol to be sold in Festival Plaza for a special event.
Somewhere in Jeff's.
One of them. The
Yeah,
other,
it is.
90% of the time.
I'll take this one. Thank you, Art, and I appreciate the work that y'all did on this. Tanya and Art looked into this earlier. I got 2 requests from people who are hosting events in downtown. One's in Festival Plaza. The other one, one is in the Red River District, and the other one is in that Red River Entertainment area. But because they are in those areas, they may not need these legislation in order to take place. And they're just 2 upcoming events that are, they're not happening immediately. So even if we don't get them on the agenda tomorrow and we don't have a solid answer, we can wait till the next meeting. It'll be fine. But they're just standard Chapter 10 things. So
But they would need to know in advance so that they can plan.
Yeah, they do, but I mean, it wouldn't be too late if we wait till the next meeting. So.
All right, well, as they research, we'll have some definite responses tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think there's any harm done if you adopt them, but we're trying not to adopt things that we don't have to adopt.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
And just for everyone's knowledge, one of the events is an event that was hosted last year. Last year they hosted it at the Mall St. Vincent, and since that was a private setting, it's different than being hosted in the Red River District. So while they needed it last year, they may not need it this year. The other event is a new event, and it's hosted by the same group that does Cork and Brew. And so it's just a new event in that series of events that they have around the Revel. So
both of these events would be outside events.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. I have no requests to speak of items on the agenda at this point. So we'll move forward.
Mr. Chairman, we're under consent agenda legislation. There's nothing for introduction, but to adopt is Resolution 147. This rejects bids received for IFB number 16-060 for the Canal Boulevard and Hollywood Avenue area sanitary sewer improvements.
Mr. Chairman, we are looking at that one too. The city attorney brought to our attention that that one may also be on there twice in essence. But we'll look at that, and if it's not necessary, we'll pull it. Or I'll let you know.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I'm sure the purpose of this is for the benefit of the administration being prudent.
Absolutely.
We'll check with the administration before we
Okay.
recommend any action.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Crawford, you may continue.
Regular agenda legislation. This is resolutions on second reading and final passage, or which will require only one reading. Resolution 146 is a resolution authorizing the providing for a waiver of all fees, permits, inspections, TAP, and inspection fees required for the construction of a 50-unit affordable housing elderly development within the city of Shreveport. This is the Olive Branch Ministry that we're partnered with community development on.
And we got some information regarding this in our last work session. Now, are there any other questions regarding this? And being consistent with my request last week, if I knew how much a price value on this waiver, I would like to know. If somebody could just, not now, Mr. Chair.
We're working on that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and because I mean, again, it seems like it's a pretty good benevolent gesture here.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. You can continue, sir.
Yes, sir. There are no introduction of resolutions. Introduction of ordinances. Ordinance 71 is closing and abandoning portions of Ponderosa Trail and Sugarleaf Trail in the Lynbrook subdivision, units 5 and 5A in sections 35T, 17 North, and R14 West. Ordinance 72 amends section 50-188 of the Code of Ordinances to provide additional language and to address the removal of signs posted on city property and/or vacant private property to assess for penalties and violations. Tomorrow, Mr. Chairman, the administration will ask this to be removed from the agenda.
Okay. All right, any questions?
Are y'all removing that from the agenda for some reworking?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
Yeah, we're going to rework it, and one of the areas that we're looking at is to create the penalty as far as in consistency with the current litter ordinances that we have, to give it a little more teeth and a little more sustainability in the long run.
It's been the hard thing with that all along has
Yeah.
been the enforcement side. It's been difficult. You know, the law is pretty clear, but people don't want to follow it, and it's hard to enforce it because
Well, if
you
we
basically have to take them to court.
had a good conversation this morning with the mayor and with the city attorney. City attorney, came up with the idea that, having a sign in the right of way is just like throwing a piece of paper in the right of way. So why don't we treat it as a litter violation rather than something else? So we're going to explore that.
That is precisely
between
what
now-
Oliver Jenkins said 3 years
I was
ago.
just going to say, I've heard that before, but we're going to explore that over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we believe that the mayor will bring you a new piece of legislation at the first August council meeting.
Great.
So we can-
We'll have some real teeth.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, who is the violator?
Yeah.
And obviously,
Part of the discussion.
part of the discussion, and obviously, I now have maybe over the next couple of months, maybe a vested interest in this
Absolutely.
on some different areas. Now, and I'm not changing, I still agree with the policy that I was proposing 3 years ago. But one thing that was never clear to me when we discussed it 3 years ago is that the property owner of which the sign is on, or is it the item being marketed or the person, I mean, that's a very different, in the common ground area, it's very obvious to me, right?
And the political sign issue won't change. This was just before, so that part of the ordinance won't change. This would just be for sales and promoting some type of business in the intersections and right-of-ways of the city.
And the campaign ordinance also says that it's the owner of the sign.
Right.
And you know, and the problem you're gonna probably have is what I had. Sometimes people will take up your signs and move them so you can get fined. Okay? And so, you know, we're gonna have to work through some of this language. We wanna make sure that once we put it in place and ask you all to support it, it'll be something that will be sustainable and also something that is realistic. Because right now we're all over the place, but we do need to do something about the illegal signage in our city. It's just, in some places, it's really awful.
Listen, I am a huge supporter. I mean, I've been talking about this for
Drives me crazy too.
5 years now, so I mean, I don't want to, and I just, yes, sometimes your opponents might move your sign, or even your advocates that think, boy, if I move this out close to the road, people
Absolutely.
are going to see it more, right? I mean,
Right, but then the person whose name is on it gets to pay. See, that's
I know, more than what I did.
we have to work through
it's all
that.
part of the contribution.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, you ready
Okay.
to proceed?
1 second, Mr. Well, let me get out of this. Okay, are there any other questions regarding to these introductions?
There's three other.
Oh, you didn't finish? Okay,
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, two other ordinance, zoning issues. Ordinance 73 is a zoning case number C-54-16. This ordinance amends Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances, the City of Shreveport zoning ordinance by rezoning property located on the east side of Wallace Lake Road, 180 feet south of Dalton Street, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from B2A Business Park District to B2 Neighborhood Business District. Ordinance 74 is also zoning case number C-55-16. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances, the City of Shreveport zoning ordinances by rezoning property located in the northeast corner of Industrial Loop in St. James, 293 feet west of Blom Boulevard, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from R1D Urban One-Family Residential District to B1 Buffer Business District with site plan approval. And finally, ordinance number 75, zoning case number C-58-16 is an ordinance amending Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances. This is the City of Shreveport zoning ordinance by rezoning property located on the south side of Southfield Road, 750 feet east of Uri Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana, Caddo Parish, from B1 Buffer Business District to R1D Urban One-Family Residential District.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments regarding these ordinances? Councilman?
I have one about the rezoning, I guess it's got to be St. Paul's. Okay, so it's B1 at the moment,
Right.
and then church is a B1 or an R1?
The church is actually the R1, and where the youth center is the B1. So even though they're only rezoning where the little youth center is, the whole piece of property is being rezoned as to R1D, as it shows in that notification.
I got you, okay.
Any other
And-
questions? Yeah.
Any reason why other than,
They basically want to, because they want to make sure that all their property is all zoned the same thing, and basically they can have a church use. They were given church use and the youth education facility with the ZBA, and they're reestablishing that for that piece of property. So they realize that they don't need the B1 zoning and that the R1D makes a lot more sense for their uses. And it's compatible with the adjacent neighborhood.
No, but my question is, why go to the trouble? I mean, what's the gain?
And I think based on the report, and I'll just look at it real quickly here, it says their main reason for doing this is, and let's just to find the line here. In 2009, there was a special exception use and variance approval for this same site. Contained in the application was a request for church use along with a youth education building and parking variance of 8 spaces. The reason for this request is to combine both the church, which is zoned R1D, and the youth property, which is zoned B1, into one lot with the same zoning. In other words, it's 2 separate lots right now. And since we don't do split lot zoning, this is the motivation.
Oh, yeah, to replat the.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the ultimate motivation here.
Okay, and the little bookstore or whatever, they have a little,
Yes. The education, it's called an education center, yes.
but it also sells,
Yes.
it has a sign that says
Yeah, they have a
books
gift shop.
for sale or something like, that doesn't interfere with the R1.
Not in this situation, since it's considered, they're also doing at the same time an administrative replat, like we mentioned, but because they have the church use, because that's an ancillary use to churches,
I got you.
then they can do it. So that makes
Okay.
them copacetic, so to speak.
Copy. Thank you.
You bet, more than welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Sweeney. Okay, any other comments or concerns regarding these introductions of ordinances? If not, Mr. Crawford, do you prepare to continue?
I will. Ordinances on second reading and final passages. This is ordinance 46, is an annexation that we had talked about earlier in the meeting. Tag number 16-01, the ordinance to enlarge the limits and the boundaries of the city of Shreveport for annexation to the lakeside on Long Lake Development in section 22T 16 North, R13 West, Caddo Parish, Louisiana. Ordinance 69 is an ordinance amending the 2016 capital improvement budget. That's the $416,000 being reallocated for SPAR capital projects for the police property and evidence room to be used for other police and property minor improvements for other buildings. Ordinance number 70 is an ordinance amending the 2016 budget for the general fund. This is to allow us to collect $600,000 more from EMS payments this year.
Okay. Max, maybe Mr. Corbin, in addition to the concerns that Mr. Jenkins brought to the conversation, do you anticipate any other public opposition to or support of this annexation?
I'm not aware of any opposition or additional support. This is pretty run-of-the-mill where we have an existing development and they are ready
Expanding?
to develop the next unit.
Okay. This be a routine public hearing, okay. Are there any questions or remarks regarding these ordinances on second reading? We'll be prepared to vote tomorrow then. Okay, Mr. Crawford, we at the end of those.
I don't know of any tabled legislation that's coming off, Mr. Chairman, and we have no property standards appeals again today until the next council meeting.
I need to talk to the property standard people. I guess it's all being handled, Mr. Green, I guess it's being handled at the board level, huh?
See that as a mark of efficiency.
All right, well,
Efficiency.
I see a lot of efficient improvements from this administration.
Nobody said
Absolutely.
anything, we'd be out of here.
You know what, we're a victim of our own success, okay? Because you won't have all these appeals? We're trying to work them out before they get here.
Well, that's what we love. We don't mind. We ain't mad at you, as the young folks would say.
I say something nice, and for some reason I'm the target of it.
Okay, well,
Nobody's targeting you. What are you talking about?
Feel that way.
It's not feeling that way.
do we have any reports from any boards, committees, or officers? None at this moment?
I will have one tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Clerk?
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I gotta start and bill us some time here. I don't want y'all to go home too early. Y'all get used to it. Any additional comments from the mayor?
None. We have meetings after this meeting. That's my comment.
Meeting after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got staff stuff we need to do, so thank you all for the efficiency in the meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Joe Shine's campaign against James Green was James Green had too short of meetings. He must not have been for city business.
Well, again, we've taken care of a lot of business at the previous meeting, so, you know, this administration ain't gonna pile on no legislation that we don't need, and we haven't come up with anything. Now, see, don't get weary in your good doing, because I remember y'all used to go home about 8.
On a good day.
We used to have to
On a
budget.
good day.
But
God,
yeah,
yeah.
they didn't know what you accomplished after you got through budget.
We used to not see the sunshine in the afternoons on Mondays and Tuesdays. I mean, it was late.
Well, let's be happy that we can exercise our judicial responsibility to this city without overdue debate but let me say this. Any other comments, communications from the council members?
Appreciate you letting us out early.
I will, but let me just say this before we dismiss. It is a good thing. Well, it's a good thing. It's a
Kind
bad thing.
encouragement.
Last week, and I want to thank the administration, the mayor especially, for following up on my concerns regarding the overlay at Hannah Street. The overlay at Hannah Street was completed last week, and the mayor and the CEO came out to the site.
It was hot.
It was hot. But some of the residents had water for us. I came out also, and it was good. But the thing that I want to mention that sort of was really inspiring is that they were so happy. They were so happy, and that's the diversity of this city. You know, I mean, getting the street overlaid in District A, the residents was overjoyed. Even they came from other streets and said that they just loved riding down that street because of the repair and overlay on it. Another district may not feel that it reached that level of so much joy and excitement, but they were. And what was inspiring was that they were so happy that they prayed for the mayor
We did.
and thanked her.
Long prayer.
In the heat.
They forgot to pray for air conditioning.
But it was really inspiring for them to feel like that, and they wasn't selfish, man. If you notice,
They weren't, no.
it was like an asking God to allow resources to be gained so other streets, other neighborhoods, streets could be overlaid. So when we do good things in this city, our residents and our constituents really appreciate those things. And I appreciate the administration for seeing that through. But the sad thing about it is, we reached our 25th homicide in Shreveport last week. There was 3 homicides in a 12-hour period. And all 3 was in my district. Matter of fact, over half of those 25 homicides was in my district. Over half of the 25 homicides for this year was in District A. I made a statement that District A is one of the most economic disadvantaged districts in the city. I went to the scene of the last homicide on Bond Street, and upon arrival, there was 200 people congregating around that scene. 200. But it was at 12 noon on a Wednesday. Besides being heartbroken by seeing that victim lying in the streets, I also was heartbroken to see 200 young people I guess maybe 40% of them may have been children, but 60% of them was adults who was wandering the streets at 12 noon on a Wednesday. And my response to myself was, why ain't these people working? Why not, they're not doing something positive and something productive? Mayor, we got to do something to help bring more economic opportunities to the inner city underserved districts. And I'd like to request that we sit down and talk about those things. And I'm also meeting, and matter of fact, I'm speaking to the North Shreveport Business Association at their next monthly meeting on the 9th. And I'm gonna exhort them, and I'm gonna challenge them, because the North Shreveport Business Association is also in District A.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that it's in walking distance in some areas, and it's in bus transportation distance in others. And I'm gonna challenge them that they would use District A unemployment as a priority in filling vacancies or job openings in those areas. Because we would never be the city as long as our weakest link continues to be impoverished and disadvantaged, where violence and shootings and killings occur. We are only as strong as our weakest link. And when you have at least 14 of 25 homicides that has occurred in this city in the last 7 months, coming out of one district, it should concern all of us. We got to look at, I know these, and we said it, the ones that happened, except for the one, matter of fact, the one that happened that Tuesday night at midnight, we found out later that those individuals knew each other.
Of course, of course.
The ones on Wednesday,
Knew each other.
those individuals knew each other.
Lived in the same house.
Well, they didn't live in the same house.
They didn't?
Yeah,
The
they
stepfather
lived
and the-
within 5 houses of each other.
Okay.
Yeah, the father and the son lived with his mother, and the mother and her new husband lived 5 houses
I
down.
see, okay.
Yeah, and the son went to visit his mother, and something erupted,
Erupted, yeah.
and that's how it happened. But again, it was relationships,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah,
and it was senseless.
absolutely. And if I could, let me just respond just for 2 minutes. And of course, you know that we lose sleep thinking about how we can better serve the people. And the areas that you've articulated, particularly some of those neighborhoods, are most impoverished. And you know, what we have done from the city, I can honestly tell you, is that we've tried to get people to get into training. Because we get state dollars and some federal dollars. But, you know, people have to take on the responsibility of wanting to get the training. And oftentimes they don't. Now, how we can better communicate that's a conversation. But I can tell you, we've been trying to get people to get into training because we have that availability and that opportunity and maybe the outreach and what it needs to be. So let's have that robust conversation. I've also spoken with our police department, and we actually are going to do something in September to try to bring all the various groups together and take a look at some of the root causes for the violence in our community, because it is a major concern, I think, to most of us, particularly those people who are entrusted with trying to make Shreveport better as leaders and elected officials. And we spent a lot of time trying to figure it out. So we're going to have some robust conversation with you all, trying to pull together. I've got people pulling at us from all the different groups, trying to get us to come to their different visuals and their different group meetings. But, you know, to me, it shows that we're still working in silos. We need to pull people together. If you've got ideas about how we can better reach people to give them hope, we want to hear those ideas. And we want to do something together, because the city can't do it all.
No, ma'am.
We don't have the resources, and even if we did, you know, there are some things we can't do without stepping on the rights of people. I mean, we can't be in these people's houses when they make decisions to pick up a gun. And so, but we want you to have the data and the information so that you can know how to make informed decisions. I'm not about acting emotionally. I'm about looking at what's really happening, looking at the data to try to get to the bottom of it and then see how we can resolve it. Until we can face reality of what is happening, we're not going to be able to solve it. So we are looking at trying to pull together people. I've been meeting with some people, different groups, you know, most of them want to do something on their own. Well, for me, it's not about a FaceTime on TV, on radio. These are real issues that we must address, and we need to do it as a unified city.
That's right.
And so, you know, we want to call on business leaders, we want to call on faith-based organizations, nonprofits, anybody who want to buy in and take ownership. Not just buy in and point fingers, but to take some ownership. And then let us do something together that will get the word out, communicate to people when, you know, help is available if you really want the help. You know, our public transportation is great. We're still trying to get dollars. I was on the phone today trying to get more dollars so we can replace some of the aging buses. I mean, we're doing a lot to try to make sure people have those opportunities. But they have to be willing to wake up and take advantage of those. So let's see how we can get that done.
And thank you, Mayor. Very, very kind remarks, and I will be working with you and after we meet, because I said again, and I believe this, that the killings that we've been experiencing is not really the problem. I think they are symptoms of bigger problems.
Yes, absolutely.
And including a void of spirituality within the hearts of those that are committing these horrendous acts. But it also, again, somewhere I read that an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Absolutely.
Where if we can get them, the culture that is, I think, is perpetrating these things on our, say, my neighborhood specifically, can restore a degree of hope and in the sense that things will happen. I think they've become so cynical that things can't change, but I believe things can change. But I think we got to manufacture that change and not just sit by and just wonder and wish it to happen. So in addition to me going to the business community of my area, I'm going to be having a district-wide meeting of my district. Mayor and I am going to give you that memo and would like to have as many of your department people there to answer questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Send us a date as soon as you can so we can try to get it on.
Yeah, I'll give you at least 3 weeks notice.
Okay.
Okay.
If you can just give us a date, because my calendar fills up really fast, and I'd like to
I
be there.
noticed that.
It does. It really does. I'm going all the time. Trust me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you for your service.
Okay.
All righty. Okay, council members.
But what do you do?
What we do?
I'm just saying, in the event, what could you do? You think you lead the harder to the water, you can't make them drink.
My granddaddy said that wasn't true.
I believe it. I believe it.
My granddad said, if you want a horse to drink when you take him to the water, put a little more salt in his diet.
I just don't, I hadn't seen it. I mean, you can, I understand what you're saying as far as sending them out there, but I don't, have they gone? I'm just wondering how many of those people have went to go fill out the application and try to gain employment somewhere. And I'm not saying they hadn't, I'm just saying I wonder how many of them have. You know, that's what I run into. Or have you applied for a job? And most of them say no, I haven't, because they feel like they won't get accepted, or they feel like they won't get an interview. Well, you can't go out for feelings. You need to go and fill out the application. That's just my opinion, is what I see.
I think there is, sort of a hopelessness in some of the younger generation, where they haven't seen opportunity ahead of them. They don't see opportunity for themselves. You don't know to be. When you ask children what they want to be, they say very archetypical jobs. They say doctor, lawyer, policeman, fireman, these things that we interact with a lot on a regular basis. you know, if a child doesn't know that they can pursue an opportunity for a job as a, you know, financial manager or something, and they've never even heard of jobs that are out there and available, then, you know, it's hard for them to envision what opportunity there is for themselves. And I think there is some sense of hopelessness there that I don't know how you combat that, but I mean, that's what I seem to be perceiving, you know, is there's no place for me. And it's not just in the young populations, and it's not just poor populations, and it's not just black populations. I mean, I see it in a lot of different populations as our world and economies have changed. There are people who, I mean, if you were a blacksmith for 20 generations, doing that kind of work in a part of the country that had iron working as a major part of their local industry, you're probably not doing that anymore. A robot's doing that, you know, like, and so there's just a lot of change in the world that has not caught up with a lot of people, and a lot of children are having trouble seeing an opportunity and a place for themselves, and really even finding a place to express that, you know. So, for what it's worth, that's just what I.
But I mean, I'd argue, you know, we are always understaffed in the city of Shreveport in our police department. He gets stacks of people applying, and he gets very few that are actually qualified.
Absolutely.
At least that used to be. I don't want to say that today is, but it was last year, the last time he met. I mean, by the way, the
Water
military
department as well. Water department as well.
That's staying here. The U.S. military. It's not like they're not hiring people. They are hiring people. People want to join the military now. Yes, globally speaking, you have to be less than 30 years of age to enlist in the military. But those are, I'll call those very reputable, you know, and maybe that's not somebody's ideal job, but it's certainly a stepping stone to a future opportunity to learn a skill, whether that's in the police department or the water and service sewer department. And I do think getting that first job is as much indicative of, you know, a path to prosperity, if you want to use a very bold, or a path to opportunity. So I mean, I'm not saying there's not an abundant amount of jobs out there. There aren't. I'm not kidding. But I think there are opportunities if somebody's committed to really look for them, and particularly in our city.
If I could make one last comment, maybe we can do a better job of communicating workforce training, because that's where we try to go with it. So I know, having come from education and working with young people, hopelessness can create situations that we're having right now, because, you know, young people don't feel like there's any hope for them to have a career. Now, some of them know they can go work at McDonald's, Burger King, and some of the restaurants, and they'll tell you straight up, I'm not doing that. Well, we have to try to instill into our young people, and I think it's going to take more than us. I mean, it has to start someplace other than us. But certainly we can try to engage parents and guardians, extended family members, to get people into workforce training so they can do what they want to do. And we've been trying to do that from the city the past 18 months, I can tell you that. And we've tried to open that up. We've got a center that's working diligently with us to try to ensure that young people can get, or middle-aged people, people who have found themselves without a job, they can get training. And that will help us bridge some of those gaps. But people have to be willing to stay in the training. And I can attest to maybe some of my distant relatives who say, well, you know, come to the training. Well, I don't want to go up there. Well, you can't stay at my house. You know, I work every day. As old as I am, I work every day. So you need to go get training and find your job. You know, somehow we've lost that value, and we've got to work with our community leaders and our families to get them to, let's take a look at what's happening to young people today. I mean, I had a nephew, grandnephew says, I don't do that kind of work. Well, you don't do any kind of work, so no, don't ask me for any money. I mean, that's the truth. And, you know, I got you a job right here, but I don't do that kind. I don't work at McDonald's. Well, you don't do any kind of work, and so guess what? They turn to stealing, which is criminal. And you know, they join with folks of like-mindedness, but somebody has to take responsibility. Okay, so that's all I'm saying. So maybe we need to communicate more that there are training opportunities, and we want to do that.
And that they're needed. I mean, I look at things that frustrate me is here I know that there are people out there that feel hopeless and like there's no, you know, kind of demand for their skills. You know, I mean, I know that there are people that feel that way. And I also look at contract bids that come in for work that the city has to have done that are so over budget because we don't have enough companies doing that work in town. And I'm like, this is so strange because I have people saying there's not enough work or nobody needs me or nobody wants me, and then I have people saying we're the only ones in town that do it and there's not enough people to do it to really provide a good price. So I mean, I both have, you know, people that want to be needed and a need, but somehow they're not meeting it, and it's frustrating.
A gap there, yes. Okay.
I think the question maybe to ask when you speak to the North Shreveport Business Association is, how many of you have open jobs you can't fill? I mean, it's like Councilman Jenkins brought up. I know that, you know, we can't, on any given day, we can't run all of our trash trucks because
Solid waste is at
because
70%.
we don't have enough people, enough warm bodies to get on those trucks. You know, and I'm sure there is some hopelessness out there, but I think there's also some people who have discovered other alternatives to meet their basic needs that don't include having a job. And you know, that's unfortunate because by the time you're 22, 23 years old, if you hadn't had a job yet, it's going to be hard to get your life on track because, as the mayor said, you have made other friends, and you're going down the wrong road.
Absolutely.
You know, I think there's only so much the city can do and ought to be expected to do, because it does come back to personal responsibility of parents, grandparents, that person who's standing on the side of the road looking at a dead body when they ought to be at work. That's an issue, and if I had the answer to that, or any of us had the answer to that, we'd be famous quick because we could solve a lot of problems not only in our city but across our country. You know, I've said for a long time, and I don't think we could ever do this in today's society of privacy and all of that, but I'd like to know every homicide that's occurred in our city this year, the victim and the person who pulled the trigger. I'd like to know, did they graduate high school? Just simply that. Did they have an education? Because I'm gonna bet in many cases that answer is no. And that's really where things start to derail. If somebody doesn't value their life enough to get, whether it's a education degree or learn a skill, do something, then how can they expect to go out and have a $150,000 job, which is what I think a lot of people are looking for.
I mean, I disagree with that. I think there are some people out there who, yes, I mean, certainly an education is a helpful thing, but I do think there are a lot of people who don't expect anything of themselves. No one's ever expected anything or been encouraging of them or kind to them in their whole 18, 19, 20 years. I mean, they're very hopeless. This is not a personal responsibility matter at every level. There are some people who have been kicked down every minute of their life. I mean, you know, they really have had very difficult experiences, and they don't know that a $150,000 a year job exists. They don't know that a $30,000 a year job exists. They don't know what a job is. They don't know what a, you know, I mean, they just have not had the same kind of, you know, blessings that a lot of people have had, and it is hard to figure out how do you break that cycle. How do you turn that around? You know, and I don't know that that's something the city answers. I mean, moreover, I mean, we're not debating any legislation here. We're just sort of talking, you know, and I think that's a real problem.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate y'all for the conversations because, I mean, I think this has been healthy And I see we're all conscious of what it's about. But I will say that while directly we may not have the wherewithal or responsibility of addressing some of these issues, I will say again that we have to be conscientious of what we can do and not pretend like we can't do anything or keep our head in the sands and be obscure to what's going on in cities around us. I mean, we've been fortunate not to experience some of the tragedies that has happened, but the question keep coming up. I do know it could happen in Shreveport. It could happen in Shreveport.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that there are root causes in there. I think you mentioned root cause, and I'm saying again that what we see are not the root cause, and the root cause is very broad, including non-traditional households anymore. We don't have that traditional household anymore. And you're right, Councilor Elberson, that there's too many, and there's too large a percentage of young people, especially within these economically disadvantaged neighborhoods, who are not exposed to opportunities to where they was at a young age had the opportunity to work or to be trained in the principles of working. And now they're 20, 22 years old and never had that opportunity for whatever reason. And some of the reasons is not because they're own, because they haven't been exposed to those environments. So anyway, but we're gonna try.
We are.
We're gonna try.
We are. And maybe we can have that conversation in the intergovernmental meeting with the school board folks. That may be something you want to consider, because in my mind, as Councilman Corbin said, education is the key, and they should have been exposed if they went to school. So that may be something that we can talk about, because I know that poverty breeds a lot of issues in life for young people.
Good. Thank you, Mayor. We're going to put that on the agenda. Oh, you got it. Okay. If you don't have it on your calendar, please put August the 12th on your calendar. That's our intergovernmental meeting. We will have the bodies that encompass the things that we're talking about under one roof, and we can but we can bring forward as our problems as well as possible solutions. So thank you, Mayor, for reminding me that we will be, there's a intergovernmental meeting coming up. Okay, great discussion. I'm glad we had time to at least engage each other in this endeavor. Any other communication from council members? Is there any other business that needs to come before this body? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.
They too scared to let us go home early, huh?
Well, let's go back to work.
Barbara?
Let's go back to work early.
Like, mine got reprogrammed.